Hi, Terry here, and welcome to Times Gone Tech. So, it's another weekend, and it's time for part 3 of my Magna Gonne V2 build video series, and that will be this, building the Breech canister. And I'm holding it like this because these parts aren't permanently assembled yet. They're just kind of held together, but give you an idea here what that's going to look like. This is looking down the powder chamber of it. And if you were wondering what keeps the whole thing together, makes it work, it's this plug here that I've got to finish sanding down a little bit more. It's still a little too tight. And I'll whack that in really good with a hammer to keep it in place. And then the rest of it is just overlapping steel. It's 3/4 of an inch thick. And if you're wondering why I don't fix this in permanently, like weld it or something, that's because I actually want it to come out. I want it to be able to come out. I want to be able to put a wooden dowel or something down the front and hammer this out. Easier cleaning, easier to clean. And the wedge in the frame will butt up against this from the back. The frame will weld to this part. It'll come around, there'll be a wedge slide through up against this. So the whole thing will fit together. But so how does this even work? Well, it all starts with this. This is the core of the breech, and it is a piece of pipe that I cut off of the barrel back when I first got started. I cut off a piece about 10 inches long here, and it slides in the back, and it slides into this piece here. This piece actually extends out to about here, and this piece slides into it, and it butts up against the barrel right about in here somewhere. And that forms the first seal. Since it was cut off the same pipe, it's exactly the same size, and I've matched them up so this is actually the orientation that it was cut from. This wasn't cut from that end, it was cut from this end. So that forms the first seal. There's no gaps or large obstructions or anything for the expanding gas to push against. It all goes straight out the barrel. And then the second seal is formed by this piece. This piece slides on over the barrel or the powder chamber back here and into this piece and butts up against this first piece, which is about 1/2 inch. So this piece stops here. This barrel, it butts up to the barrel here, right about in here. Then this piece slides in about 1/2 inch into this, forming the second seal. So there's 2 gas seals here. And then this third piece slides up over this piece, and it actually works better if I do it the opposite direction. It just fits together better if I fit it together like this. And it'll fit up against this piece, forming not really a seal, but a vent. Any gas that makes it past these 2 seals, this should direct the gas straight out from the barrel, not let it come back at the shooter. And then, of course, the breech plug here will fit in here. I'll whack that in with a hammer, and then the frame will be welded on here, comes back. We've got a wedge coming through here. You've got an aiming handle. Your pivot pieces, pivot studs will go here. You can see it better that way. We'll go right about here, maybe up here to balance it out. Depends on where the balance point is. And yeah, that's it. That's how it'll work. So you might be wondering why I haven't attached these pieces together. Well, I don't trust my blacksmithing skills good enough to fit these together independently, separately from the barrel, and make sure that everything is butted up nice and tight. I am afraid it could come back and get a gap in there, and then there would be a gap for the gas to escape through. So what I did was I sanded these 2 pieces of pipe down like this. And yeah, I'm sure you're probably wondering, wouldn't a metal lathe be even faster and work just even easier? Yeah, it would. And if you would be happy to buy me one, I would be giddy to use it. We work with the tools we have, not with the tools we want. So anyway, the only way I could make sure that I get all of these pieces fit together nice and tight is to sand them down so they would slide together and then assemble them like this. Now at this point, there are 3 ways I can finish this up. The strongest way would be to weld around the breech end here on these pieces. And then even really the strongest would be to even weld the breech plug in. But I decided not to do that for the same reason I didn't weld anything up here. I just wanted to look more authentic. So the other way that I could do it, the second way, is with solder, silver solder. I could heat this whole thing up and just pull some solder down in there and then file it down flat. So it still has these nice crisp lines and still has that authentic look. But there's something else I can do that actually the engineering says will work just as well. The design says will work just as well. And that is to use a high temperature, high strength epoxy. Okay, now, before you start laughing, or, no, won't work. Yes, the engineering says it will work because there's no gas pressure pushing against any of those pieces. It's just all expanding outward against the sides toward the back, which is going to have that wedge behind it, holding it in place, locked into place with that frame, and then out the barrel. That's where all the pressure is going. So, yeah, a good high strength, high temperature epoxy should hold it. Now, I sand those pieces down with 40 grit paper, and then the parts that fit together that are part of the assembly that'll slide in and out of the back end of the barrel. I took that down with 80, and then went with 120. And so it's got a nice, smooth, easy fit. The others I left with 40 grit, pieces that will stay permanently assembled. So the epoxy's got something to hold on to. I may end up welding it anyway. You never know. I may end up welding that barrel too. The whole thing might fly apart first shot. But we're going to find out. I'm going to epoxy that up. But first, I got to drill the touch hole. I'm going to drill the hole through these pieces separately. And the reason is very simple. When this is fully assembled, that steel is going to be 3/4 of an inch thick. Okay, if I break a tip of a drill bit off down in there at 3/4 of an inch thick, I'm going to pay the devil getting that out, recovering from that. But if I just welding a 1/4 inch thick, one, I got less of a chance to break the drill bit. And then if I do, I can recover from that. That's not a big problem. So I'll use the drill to mark the hole for the next piece. Then I'll pull it out. I'll start with this one, and then I'll use the drill to mark the second one, and then I'll pull it out and drill it, and then I'll do the same with the third piece. Okay, so here it is, ready to go. Got my touch hole drilled, and I'll put a coat of paint on the outside of this, and then keep this inside all shined up and greased. And yeah, it's ready to use. So coming up next week, the final episode, finishing it up, finishing the frame. See you then.